Hi. Hi. Welcome to Thank You Half Hour. I'm your host, Tom Christopher Warren, and today we have one of my favorite people on the planet, Andrew Levitt, aka Nina West, drag artist, actor, writer, songwriter, philanthropist, citizen of the world, one of the greatest people I've ever known. Andrew, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Are you kidding? I'm so excited to be here. This is great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, half hour.
Thank you, half hour.
Thank you, half hour. It's so good. It's so
I
good.
wanted to do this because my friends have great stories. And as I said to Andrew Lippa in my last episode, I'm of an age now where a lot of my friends are also at a place in their life where they have these great stories, these great fables of their careers and their lives and their what sort of got them into the business. And I just want people to share those stories with the world, with my fives of listeners.
Oh, please.
Apparently.
Come on.
My in-laws will listen. So for Ted and Betsy, let's tell all the stories. Okay, so I'll set the stage. I hate that I just used that phrase, but
yeah, why?
Whatever.
It's
I know
podcast.
I hate me. We met a few years ago. You had done a production of The Little Mermaid here in town. We're in Columbus, Ohio, with what is now known as the Butterfly Guild, right? An incredible organization. And you were famously a magnificent Ursula. My husband was in the show, and we met at an opening night party. And I may have told you the story. I don't know. But upon meeting you, you know in West Side Story in the dance at the gym where Tony and Maria are looking at each other and everything fades away, right? Everything slows, everything dims, and you're
How does your husband feel about this story?
Well, he agrees with me. You are such a magnificent, empathetic listener that you have the ability. You're the most skilled social being I've known. I will say there's one other person that I include in that. But you have the ability to make the person that you're talking to feel like they're the only other person in the world at that moment. And you engage and you listen, and it's really remarkable. And so I knew on sight, I was like, oh, you're the real deal. And this was pre-Drag Race, pre-airing of Drag Race.
Yeah.
And so the world didn't know you. Columbus knew you. And I had seen your Disney show at Access.
Yeah.
And so automatically we're both fans of Disney. And we'll likely talk about this in the next few minutes. But I knew on sight that you were the real deal. And you have continued to prove that. So thank you.
Thank you. I have, people come to, I really strongly believe, since it's a theater podcast, I'm going to try to put things in this theater context,
Sure.
right? Shows are really special, right? Because oftentimes you get to do a show and it's very finite, right? It doesn't last forever. And it's a huge lesson in life, right? You can't hold on to everything forever. But people come into your life for a reason, right? And oftentimes when you're doing a show, someone's, your stage partner is there to teach you something. You're there to learn something. Also, put on one hell of a show, right? And embody the characters if that's what the show is calling for, the director is calling for, however, the piece is being worked on. But life is a lot like a theatrical experience, and you came into my life at this current phase where I really needed someone to be a voice of reason and guidance, because little did I know, my life would be changing so dramatically, and little did I know how much kind of feedback and support and experience that I didn't have. I needed that, and you came into my life at this point that was I desperately needed. And so so we have become these, I think, very strong friends where I rely and confide and trust you implicitly to kind of talk me through things, or to how approach an audition, or work through a script and make choices. And so this relationship is one of those great pieces, right? Rather than, oftentimes you'll do a show and you'll have great memories, but oftentimes people go their separate ways. This is one of those things. It's I feel like this relationship is it's kind of it's going to stand the test of time. I think I'm with you for the long haul.
I mean, we meet the people we're supposed to meet when
I agree. I agree. I
really believe that. So you are this bananas multi-hyphenate, right? I in the introduction, I said you are this, and this. And what is that? How do each component of your life rise when they need to? The songwriter, the philanthropist, the drag artist, the theater artist, all of these facets of Andrew Levitt that hold equal validity.
That's a great question because I think in this business you're required to be a multi-hyphenate, right? You have to learn how to do it all.
Yeah.
And depending on where the industry is going, you have to figure out how to get your hands in that too. Just like this today, this podcast. This is how people are connecting. And
Well, sure, but I talk every day. Not everybody writes a children's book every day. We all talk.
well, I mean, I don't either. You know what I mean?
Right. And then suddenly you're like an author.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy thing. And so I think especially in this business, like specifically drag first and foremost, I learned very quickly I had to adapt because I was not, and I still am not, and it still makes me really uncomfortable. I'm very insecure. I'm not what I think people expect drag to be, right? I am my own version of drag, and I love my own version of drag. But that forced me to become a bit of a chameleon in ways where I had to okay, well, I might not be the prettiest girl, but I can write a show and I can have funny commentary and I'm a great host.
And you're the prettiest girl.
Oh, I'm the prettiest. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I'm not the book. Like, you know what I mean? Like if someone was going to say, this is what when we think of drag, this is what we think of. I'm not going to be the illustration.
See, you're what I think of because I think of drag as political at my age. I grew up watching Coco and Bunny and the smart, intelligent, politics forward, funny writers who happen to be in fabulous drag.
Yeah. But I was forced to adapt quickly. And also when I'm a dreamer, right? And so I really wanted to do it all. Like when I really wanted to do it all. And I still want to do it all. Like there's nothing within me that says, oh, you can't do that. I've never ever believed that. I've never bought that bill of goods.
Yeah.
I know I don't subscribe to that. If someone tells me I can't do it, I'm like, it's more it's like more gas on the fire to I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
Like here's how I'm going to prove you wrong. I can totally do this. And so I think a lot of people, they don't know how to pin me down. They don't know what is Andrew? Who is Nina? I don't get it. And I'm a lot of different things. And I think that has, been the greatest savior of my career because, and for me to continue to want to do it, because this is a tough business. Drag is a tough cutthroat business.
Is it?
And then, and then you put Drag Race on top of it, which opens a lot of doors, but you are required to continue to perpetually spin and work and network and engage. I mean, there's different ways to do it. I'm just doing what I think I need to do, right? And then you put on top of that the theater industry, which is my first love.
Yeah.
That's how I got into drag, was because it was live performance and I really wanted to do theater.
I was going to ask if drag for you was a natural extension from your theater.
Yeah. I always told people when I was first starting out, when people would do an interview, I don't think I've ever shared this. I was so concerned about trying to legitimize drag because people had such an awful, people who were not in the community had such an awful point of view of what drag was. Oh, you are drug users, you're prostitutes, you're the lowest of the low. And even people within the community, have carried that and probably still carry that notion.
Oh, we see the protests because of that built in.
And early on, I just was really focused on wanting to say, look, this is who we are too. We're sons, we're brothers, we're grandchildren, we're lovers, we're
parents.
We're parents, we're your teachers. And so I always approached that in the shows. I was always, and I don't know if that was my own insecurity of being nervous about doing drag. And oftentimes I think so, it was, right? Because I don't think I myself even put the value in of what drag was to I'm going through this always. I'm always constantly not trying to tell myself what the truth is, but trying to make sure I understand all sides of it.
Well, and I think as queer people, aren't we always sort of calibrating our validity with social expectations?
Constantly, because we're told, I was told at a very young age, whether or not anyone knew I was in my difference, I was told at a very young age, that was wrong.
Right.
And that was bad. And I carried that weight with me. And I still carry it with me.
Yeah.
I still have shame surrounding that in all different aspects of my life, depending on how it manifests itself. And so my queer identity has been the greatest gift to me in trying to also decipher my, how to be a multi-hyphenate.
Yeah.
How to be willing to lose things That was a big lesson.
Right.
I had to, and I mean, like when you're at, I've never talked about it this way either, but when you're like about to lose it all, your family, when you're about to lose it all, it changes the skin in the game. And I went through that. And so having that concept, I'm not afraid. Do you know what I mean? Like my braveness is because it's like, that's what life has taught me. And I know what it's like to feel alone. I know what it's like to feel isolated. But I also know what it's like to be loved and cherished and celebrated and embraced for who I am. And so conversations surrounding those specific things and talking about that kind of stuff with my parents and my family and, putting a line in the sand and saying, I won't tolerate this anymore. You can have me in your life or you can't. I will go on. That was a lesson, right? To be like, oh, can I do this? Yeah, I can. You can do hard things.
Yeah. And you bring that to every bit of not only your drag, but your authorship and your performance as an actor. The fact, and I know we spoke about this, but when you hosted the Pride event on Disney Plus and sang famously, in my mind, very, very famously, sang Rainbow Connection with Kermit the Frog. And I thought, okay, there's a seismic shift that is happening when a man in a dress is on TV singing with arguably one of the most iconic characters in the children literature.
I mean, one of the most to me, Kermit is, for me, and I know for you, the Muppets are like quintessential.
Right.
It's my childhood.
It's canon.
Yeah. And I think there are a few characters in the world, Mickey Mouse, Kermit the Frog, Bugs Bunny,
Now,
but like,
the Simpsons,
that are Homer Simpson,
part of the zeitgeist.
100%. And the Muppets are a generational love. And I really fought for that. Because everything I do with a brand like Disney, I really fight for. Because I'm not only just trying to prove to queer people that I'm worthy, I have to show executives and corporate people that I am good enough, and I have to be better than. I have to be, I have to run circles around all of my counterparts to prove that I'm good enough to be in the room, and that's that tough lesson, right? Like, but I had to really fight for that, and my friends at Muppet Studios, who are so wonderful, stood by that and believed in it. And my friends at Disney were like, this obviously makes sense. But you have to there's you have to I constantly am trying to make sure, it's tough, right? Because there's a lot of sides to me, there's but I'm constantly trying to ensure that that's something that I could happen in the first place. And that is maybe the most important thing that I've done. I mean, professionally. Professionally. Because it shows kids that we all look different. And it's not nothing more than, drag in that context is a really large mode of self-expression. There's nothing to it other than I think a big blonde wig makes me feel really good. I think a fun caftan with Kermit on it makes me feel really good. And that gives me confidence to do this right now.
Right.
Because I was scared out of my mind that I was going to drop the ball. Oh my gosh. Yes. I've been in these situations where I've been required, because of how I'm built, I'm really insecure. And I don't know if that's the Leo in me. I don't know what it is, but I'm really insecure. And it's out of, I think, a lot of my own queer identity.
Sure.
My body size, my, who I am. I have a lot of insecurities. And so oftentimes in these situations, I almost feel like I'm stepping out of myself and becoming completely somebody else. So because I can't do it, I can't process. It's like, I got to step out over here and kind of it has to become an out of body experience for me. And oftentimes I won't remember everything that's happening.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, I think that's the artist's life, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're a writer, whether you're a painter, you're sort of exercising something that is too heavy to carry,
Yeah.
inside. So you have no choice but to give it some sort of outlet.
Right.
I mean, it's why I like playing roles on stage. I love walking in the shoes of another because sometimes it's just too much. I mean, heavy is the head that wears the crown, and your crown is much larger than a TV show win. It's the responsibility.
I didn't win.
You won Miss Congeniality, and you won in my heart.
I love you. Yeah.
But like, listen, I completely hear that you have insecurities. Totally valid. I also know that you balance that insecurity with ownership of the weight of responsibility you have to queer people beautifully.
Yeah, I don't often, I know people don't always get me, and like LGBTQIA plus people don't understand me.
Really?
I think that there is this, there's one of those things that I've been dealing with or battling, and that's the thing I have talked about a little bit, is that, oftentimes prior to the 2022 drag bans and the conversations out of Florida and libraries and Proud Boys showing up and Nazis showing up all over the country as things have gone on, even recently in Los Angeles this week. Prior to that, even people within the community would talk about me as if I, first of all, wasn't in the room, and would say that, she's Disney-fying drag. She's making it too palatable. She's taking away the edge of what drag is within the community. And it's so interesting to me that because in my mind, and now as the proof is in reality, drag queens who exist on a plane of working in spaces that are accessible to families are the most punk of the art form right now. They're the ones who are doing the most dangerous work. They're the ones who are on the front lines, having the toughest conversations with parents, LGBTQI plus parents who have children, which is something we've all fought for.
Right.
And now, conversely, those same people who fought for these rights are saying, but no, you're ruining what I do. I'm adding to it because what I do really well is like, and I know this, what I do really well is I'm present. Like, that's what I do well. I don't death drop. And thank God somebody else does. It's work. That is my, honey, I'm going to throw the dollar bills. I'm all about that, but that's not me. And that's a constant thing that I'm like, well, oh my gosh, look at them over there. They're having all of the success because that's what they do or whatever, right? My own insecurities.
Sure.
As Ru calls it, your inner saboteur. Gets in my own way. But then these moments, that require us to show up, I look at what was asked of me and what is asked of people right now, LGBTQI plus people and our allies.
Right.
And it's, we fought for all of these things. We fought for marriage equality. We fought to have the right to have children.
Set against the backdrop of our own pandemic.
That's correct. That is absolutely correct. Where we were left alone. So I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But, when the alignment of, say, and they're very different. I'll talk about that later, actually. But, we were in the midst of our own pandemic where no one would care for us except our own.
Except lesbians.
And gay men
That's right.
would only care for us and touch us and hug us and hold us. And that's a part of our history that we need to carry. And we need to tell those stories. Right. How the women saved us in our community. And then we carry that. And I think drag queens and, specifically these people who are on these front lines doing these story times, I think they're doing a lot of heavy lifting right now. And we have to show up and support them. Tara Lipsinki, who just had a protest at King's English Library or bookstore in Salt Lake City. What's happened in, all this crazy stuff, right? We're required to listen and to show up. And I don't know, because I don't know, it's a whole other conversation. But when these people are when Proud Boys and protesters are showing up and they're placing things on our community that are not true and they're not real and they're not accurate and they're writing a whole narrative that is absolutely false. specifically though to actually go after trans men and women,
Correct.
not drag queens, but because people often conflate the issue and don't understand.
Yep.
What drag is, what the art of drag is versus what the identity of being trans is. It has.
There's a
lot to talk about, Tom. And thank you, 30 ain't gonna get us there.
Thank you, 6 Hour.
I know.
No, I get it.
No, but the work is really serious right now, and it makes me sad and it makes me frustrated, but it also ignites my passion.
Well, that was my next question.
Yeah.
Does the world inspire how you create your art?
I'm scared.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to acknowledge, and I think it's fair to own that.
Yeah.
And it's we're in different stages of grieving, and I don't. I was on tour with a Christmas show in 2022 that every stop was followed by Proud Boys and bomb threats, and that changed me. That I had come off of Hairspray for a month to go do this Christmas tour, and I went back onto Hairspray. And that left me in a shell of my own kind of insecurity and my own fear, because I was constantly looking over my shoulder. I was constantly walking out the stage door is somebody here waiting for me? So imagine, and I'm not the victim. What I'm trying to bring to light is, imagine somebody who is going to a public library and who is an entertainer based in Salt Lake City or Denver or Los Angeles or New York, wherever, and they're a local entertainer and they don't have any resources or anybody watching out or protecting them. I mean, that's,
terrifying.
It's terrifying. And then imagine being a trans person in this nation.
Right.
In which I can't even fathom. And it breaks my heart.
With a target on your back when because I believe that much of the rhetoric doesn't even stem from actual belief. I think it is largely a smokescreen to just distract. And I think these folks have possibly had queer people in their lives.
Do you ever remember a time where it's been so divided? I mean,
No.
I don't think we're old. I think that an age is relative.
Sure.
And experience is, it's all relative. But I can't, everyone across this country is experiencing this. Families divided. I can't go home for Thanksgiving. We can't talk about politics. We can't talk about, because otherwise it ends in a fight. And we're in the midst of this tribal yelling into the ether.
Yeah.
You're right. You're wrong. I'm right. Rather than saying, whoa, how do we listen to one another? And so what's also come from this and stemmed from this awful point in history is people thinking they can write whatever narrative they want because if it's online, then it must be real.
Right.
And then having other bots and fake news outlets and things that are they're infiltrating our everyday life that people are clicking on, well, this must be true. It looks like it's from X source, and that's a reliable source, right? But none of it's real. So people are having a hard time trusting their news sources. People are having a hard time trusting their families, and I don't know what the resolution is to that, but we've all identified the problem. So how do we fix it?
Well, I was raised to not discuss God or politics because it was rude, right? Yeah. So we have a generation of people who don't know how to discuss it. So now we're at the point where we're just yelling it at each other and into the void and into our social media accounts because we don't quite know how to listen. And I think that's why meeting you and immediately facing a stranger who is listening, oh, where's that all over the world, Okay, so
thank you, half hour.
I guess we are wrapping up. So
no, but it's not right.
It's crazy. I know.
What if it's another half hour?
I love talking to you. What are you excited to do next?
Oh my gosh, well, I really I'm hopeful that the work will kind of find me.
Yeah.
And then I'll find the work. I'm nervous because, you come off of I did a 21-month stint with Hairspray, and it changed my life in a lot of really wonderful ways. And towards the end of the second leg, we were wrapping up, and the writer strike happened, and then the SAG-AFTRA strike happened, and I was really like, we were ended in Los Angeles, like we were wrapping up, and Los Angeles was one of our last stops in the last 2 months of tour, and I had all these like great, this momentum was
So
building.
exciting,
yeah. And then the strike happened, which it should.
Yeah, right.
As a proud member of the union, I'm
Mhm.
I'm thrilled the strike is happening
Yes.
because it should. But it has changed my plans a little bit,
Yeah.
and so I'm kind of I am, like most people in this industry, I'm kind of a creature of the business, and so I'm a gypsy. So wherever's gonna come grab me, I'm gonna hop on that train and I'm gonna go. But like I really hope to do a lot more theater. Theater, like I said, is my first love, and there's something so magical about just sitting in the dark room of an auditorium or a theater and having a collective experience with people you don't know. Someone had told me this adage, and I'm going to mess it up, and hopefully you know it, but like all of like, and it's probably not true, but like I found it so romantic is that when you sit in the theater, everyone's calm and everyone's watching, everyone's hearts sync up to the same
I believe that.
pace, and everyone's beating kind of, and like there's this natural rhythm that's occurring within the room. And I just found that so romantic and so powerful. And I'd only ever heard that when I went on the road with Hairspray.
Yeah.
And it just kind of changed and I always think the job is so powerful and magical, right? Because those stories are happening right in front of you. And it's really, we're asking an audience to turn their phone. Like now we're asking them to turn their phones off and give up the world. Turn off your watch, turn off your phone, and just enjoy what's happening in front of you, being performed live by artists.
And let it heal you. Let it heal you. Feel that healing. Because we do wake up in our burning world every day and make the decision, I'm going to make art or I'm not. And we're doing it because it's what we know to do. And I mean, I think we're probably on the same page. We think that this has the power to heal, right? What we do as artists has that.
I believe it. Like when I was a kid, I would scavenge. I would go to I would go to like Quonset Hut, which I'm from Canton, Ohio, and I would go to like Quonset Hut, or I would go to like any kind of CD store, and I would go to the Broadway cast recording section, and I would just and I had never, my experience in seeing shows, but I would go up to Cleveland and I would go see something at Playhouse Square if my grandma would treat us. But the first show I ever saw was Cats, Now and Forever, and but I saw Miss Saigon in Cleveland. I didn't get a chance to go to New York until I was in high school for a choir trip. It was my first trip, which is where I got this shirt, by the way. But my access to those stories was in those cast recordings. And so like I would intentionally sneak and grab, after I get out of high school, I would go over to Quonset Hut and I would buy falsettos. And, like that's a really good one. When Michael Rupert sings What More Can I Say? It's him telling a love story that I didn't think was possible, and hearing a man talk about another man and loving him and being and turned on by him and being challenged by him. And like that to me was like an awakening, because it was like, I was told I was a deviant. I was told I was going to die alone. I was told I was going to be lonely. And then I grabbed falsettos and it's like, oh wait, no, maybe that's not it. And it was so like for me, theater is like it's a saving spot for me. It's a saving grace, and for a lot of people, it is. I grew up in the time of Rent.
Oh God, yeah.
So like I was a senior I was 96, so I was a junior or senior going into my senior year of high school, and that like changed my life because I was someone who was coming out, trying to figure out who I was, and it was so unapologetically queer. And I don't know. I think theater is it's hard to access. And so we have to, that's a whole other conversation. But because I want to make sure people have access to it so it can change their lives.
Yeah.
But man,
I remember flying to La Jolla to do Harmony in 96, 97, and was in the airport, and the cover of Newsweek had the cast of Rent.
Yeah.
And I thought,
I think I have that magazine stuff.
like you singing with Kermit, it felt seismic. I was like, wait, nobody knew this is pre-Glee, pre-Smash.
Mhm.
If you lived in Middle America, the only way you knew my art form, was from a cast recording, or if you went to New York, or if a tour happened to come through your town. So to see it on Newsweek felt insane. And it just felt like a true shift. And then, I have a lot of international students, and I always ask them, what put this on your radar? It's such an American form in some ways.
It is,
right?
It is our greatest art form, I believe.
I believe so too. I believe so too. And jazz and everything that came together to form music theater. But these kids from Mexico or China or Russia all said Glee, cast recordings, and Julie Andrews. I said, Julie Andrews. I said, yeah, Mary Poppins and Maria
were
my nannies.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It blew my mind.
Musical theater was my entry point into understanding who I was. And it's a very common story with gay men. Because it's like, here is this. Sound of Music is a great example. Here's someone who feels like they don't fit in. And she is on the hunt. And you got to change the VHS tape because she just decided she's going back to the nunnery. You got to put the VHS tape back in. But that Sound of Music, Julie Andrews, that makes complete sense to me.
Same.
Because we're not. It's interesting. I mean, it's awesome that there's so much content out there right now, but we don't have a collective language anymore.
Right.
So like, because Wizard of Oz would be on every year at a certain time of year. Once a year, and everyone would gather around and have Sound of Music be on. Once a year, everyone would gather around. But obviously the problem with that is we're not getting enough diverse stories. We're not getting the stories.
Sure.
We're getting a story.
Correct.
So, like the nostalgia of us having a through line, we never really did. Yeah. But, it's this idea, right? So I correct that statement. But, the romanticism of those things that are a common language.
Yeah.
And I think for gay men specifically,
it's our shorthand.
Really queer people.
Yes.
Musical theater is such a major entry point.
Yeah. What are you excited to see coming up? Anything?
Oh my gosh. Well, I've seen a lot of really good shows recently. I saw Pearly Victorious, which
I did too.
Is remarkable.
That cast.
Leslie Odom Jr. is, I just think, so brilliant.
He's next level.
Kara Young my prediction is going to win the Tony
100%
for best probably featured actress in a play.
Although she's second
so
last
good.
bow.
So she's so good. She's so good. I think Pearly Victorious is the play to see, although there's a lot of stuff to see right now. A lot of stuff is opening and the theaters are going to be booked. I saw Some Like It Hot. I really love Some Like It Hot.
I do too. Love it.
It's a big tap classic Broadway show. I'm in love with it.
Jay Harrison Gee was on my flight the other day, and I obviously walked past them because
you should
first
have said hello.
I did, and fangirled. I'm a big fan. Your work is so magnificent. Thank you for all you do. And they looked up at me, on the plane trying to get some sleep. And thank you.
Where are you coming from? Tell us your flight pattern.
I was going to Atlanta to connect to Albuquerque for a wig fitting. Long story. And so they were going to Atlanta.
You go to Albuquerque for a wig fitting? Your life.
I mean, okay. I'm kind of a jet setter.
Yeah, you are. I have a wig fitting in Albuquerque. I can't talk right now. What else? I saw Titanic. I'm a huge fan of Titanic.
So funny.
So I saw it for the third time. I took a friend to go see it to expose them to the fabulousness that is Titanic.
Yes.
But I am going to see Spamalot in a couple weeks.
Leslie Kritzer. Oh, I'm
in love with her.
Can't wait. Same.
And then I'm going to go to Chicago to see Boop on its pre-Broadway work tryout.
Yes. A friend from Lion King is doing the hair and makeup design.
Yeah. I'm really excited. And so, I mean, and then I'm hoping to see Akimbo. Everyone loves Akimbo. I haven't seen it yet.
It's great.
You just saw Harmony, didn't you?
I did. I saw Harmony. It was magnificent. It was, surreal for me because I have such a long history with the show.
Long history with the show.
I was texting somebody who was in the show and he said, so is it like you watching Ghosts? I said, yeah, you're remembering, because I saw it with Kate Baldwin, who was my next guest on this podcast. And she and I had done the show together.
Baldwin, you're so casual.
And we just sat there holding hands going, we're remembering all of the memories while appreciating all of the new stuff simultaneously. And Warren's direction and choreography is stunning.
Stunning.
John O'Neill's music direction is stunning. The design across the board is gorgeous. And seeing Chip Zien, right, who to me is falsettos.
He's the
hearing that
baker
voice,
for me.
He's the baker.
You know, I mean, but he is from falsettos. I mean, there is like, yeah,
you're seeing history unfold in front of you.
I saw him do Carolina Change.
Yeah,
the father in Carolina Change, and that show was really incredible.
It was. We saw that together.
We did see it together.
I'm sitting here going, I
was sitting next to you, Queen.
And those seats were so itty bitty, and you're 8 foot tall. So both of us are sitting.
I'm 5'4". Tom, stop exaggerating. I'm sitting on a box right now.
Of course, you're you wee little thing.
Little small thing.
I have to wrap us up. This has been the best. Thank you for joining me.
Oh my
Andrew
God.
Levitt, Nina West, megastar, supernova. I'm so proud, and I know I say this to you all the time, but I am so proud of what you're doing for the world, for our community, and for just actually making me fucking laugh, and just for being so entertaining and smart and engaging. And I love you.
Tom, I love you. I always want to say thanks for everything you do for me. And you're just such a friend. You're like a friend, the definition of what it means to be a friend, and good and bad. And I really appreciate you. Thanks. And I'm so proud of you. And thanks. Hello. Thank you, half hour. You guys, we're at places. We're at places.
Thank you, places.
Thank you, places.
That was fun.
Boxland Media. Think big.